This is huge news. It just is. And just to set the stage, McCarthy had been under significant pressure by a certain wing of his party, sort of the Matt Gaetz wing, to do this. But even more so-called traditional Republicans have backed it and thought it's time. I mean, I read a scathing editorial in National Review, which I think you could fairly refer to as establishment type Republicans, completely supporting this, It's being dismissed already by the White House as partisan, by the left in the House and elsewhere, as, you know, there's no evidence and there's no new news. So what's he doing? It's not an actual impeachment. It's an inquiry into whether they should conduct impeachment proceedings. Was it the right move?
Oh, yeah, I think it absolutely is. I'd be interested in hearing if you were a prosecutor and I was your underling and I came in with the evidence that we already have, would you say, oof, this is a pretty easy case? Or would you say, well, there's not a lot there? Because I think as an average person, not knowing the law and everything else, not knowing how these things really, flesh out, I think there's an overwhelming amount of evidence now that shows this is really a crooked family.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
I completely agree with you. I don't think they've proven crime, but they don't necessarily have to. I think they've proven already, without having the full subpoena power to be able to get all the bank records, which we'll get to in a second, that they are corrupt, that at a minimum, and I've said this for weeks now, at a minimum, Joe Biden knew that his son Hunter was influence peddling on that Burisma board in Ukraine, cashing checks as a result of his relationship to Joe Biden. Joe Biden allowed, at a minimum, but it's beyond the minimum, the appearance of impropriety for well over a year, as his son became a millionaire on the Ukrainian dime. And then without any pause, given the relationship that his son had forged with this Burisma board in Ukraine, he went over there and fired the guy investigating that Burisma board president. Like without any pause, as if that's the best. Right. I just laid out the best case scenario for Joe Biden.
Yeah, the best. That's no corruption necessarily on his side. That's just him, stumbling into those things. I guess you could say there's no way that happened. Yeah, irresponsible. And that is the best scenario. But we know that I think there's a few things that are really incriminating. And I can't remember, was it Charles Schwab or Morgan Stanley? I think it was Morgan Stanley that the vice president came out and said, this looks bad. This looks like money laundering and we should not be involved in this. And then he kicked it up to the board. Then he went later and kicked it to the FBI and I think the Treasury. I mean, you have people that were on the outside with no political anything to grind, just people that are doing business coming out and saying, this looks really bad. You have, I think, 72 yellow flags that were sent to the Treasury from 12 different banks saying this looks like money laundering here. You have the entire family setting up shell corporations. I mean, when you look at the shell corporations alone, I don't have a shell corporation. I don't know what you would do with a shell corporation if you were clean. But tell me how the family, every member of the family is an energy expert? What is the business behind each one of those shell companies for every member of the family? There's no way. There's just no way. It's not this hard.
That's right. So you've got Nancy Mace, who she was on CNN last night talking about one of the reasons why she would support this. Again, Nancy Mace, that is not Matt Gaetz. Nancy Mace is a very moderate Republican who has not been shy about criticizing President Trump, about potentially working across the aisle. This is Nancy Mace, who we all remember freaked out after she saw that FBI form that had been kept hidden for so long, saying it very much looks like the Bidens accepted a bribe. And this is one of the things that they're going to investigate. Now we're in worst case scenario if that FBI form turns out to be true, and they find the financial records of it. But they don't have to do that. But here she is last night talking about why she's in favor of what McCarthy's about to do.
There's a difference between an impeachment vote and an inquiry. The inquiry would give us another tool in the toolbox specifically to look at Joe Biden's bank records. Everyone's screaming about the evidence. Where's the evidence? The bank records hold all of the evidence. And if the American people, Caitlin, if you could see the suspicious activity reports that I have seen on the Biden family, you would probably support an impeachment inquiry. We can't share the SARS reports because they're confidential and that would be against the law. So we have to prove it via other means, via the bank records, for example. If that gets us Joe Biden's bank records, then I'm going to support it. The kind of money that was involved in these schemes is astounding. You would be shocked. You would blush, Caitlin, if you'd seen what I had seen.
Okay, I'm going to get you to respond to that, Glenn. But if you watch the whole interview, all Caitlin Collins does, who, she used to work for the Daily Caller. What happened to her natural sense of inquiry on something like this? All she did was say, what's your new evidence? What's the evidence? There's nothing new. There's nothing new. What kind of reporter doesn't say, I see what you're telling me, there's smoke, and you want to figure out whether there's fire? You're trying to tell me that the things you've seen that I'm not allowed to see because they're confidential have you deeply alarmed. Probe a little on a scale of 1 to 10. How alarmed are you? Was it one report or was it multiple? Help us dig to figure out why Nancy Mace, who's not a fire breather, is clearly animated about this and 100% wants the inquiry to begin.
The other thing is look how they took Adam Schiff. Look how they took everything and said, this is the one that's going to bring him down. This is the one that's going to bring Donald Trump down. The most investigated. I am shocked that he built buildings really fast. You know this, Megyn. He built like 4 huge hotels on the West Side Highway. At the time it took the city to make 1 sanitation building. Okay. He built like 5 and a highway underneath it. And I thought to myself, there's got to be, hey, Vinny, you got to move this a little bit. None of that. He's this investigated. You can't find anything on him. And yet every single thing they said turns out to not be true or an exaggeration. And the press here is saying all the time, what's new? I don't know. All of it. Remember, you guys said none of it was real? Well, let's just start there. It apparently is all real. Now, what's in it? You have no curiosity. I can't believe the lack of. Do you remember? Well, I shouldn't say who this was. There was an anchor when I was at CNN, and Anna Nicole Smith had died, and I think that's who it was. And she was
literally, by the way, just literally the highest rated story in television history, at least during my time on cable. I don't remember a story that rated higher than Anna Nicole Smith's passing. So I'm over at CNN. And of course, when an alcoholic has, the flu at CNN, call Glenn. He's a washed up bum. And so she's doing this story and she's asking me about alcoholism. And I'm like, there's nothing you can do to save an alcoholic that doesn't want to be saved. If they haven't made the internal switch, it's not going to happen. And I remember just looking at her eyes were just like glazed over. I could tell she did not care until I said, my mother killed herself. She was addicted to prescription medication. All of a sudden, I just saw, oh, wait, I might be able to make him cry. I have something on the, there was no, it was not honest at all. It was just about doing, what you're supposed to do and act like you care. I cannot believe how many people in media that just don't actually care about any of this. It's our country. It's your children's future on the line. And they don't care? You've heard bedding and apparel brands say they're the softest and most comfortable, but do they promise that that's the case? At Cozy Earth, you get the softest, most luxurious feeling fabric guaranteed. That means if you do not love Cozy Earth's bamboo sheets, you have 100 days to get your money back. But they're not worried about refunds because once you try Cozy Earth, you are hooked for life. Start with Cozy Earth's best-selling bamboo sheet set, the thing that started it all. Made of 100% premium viscose from bamboo. Super soft, ethically sourced sheets which regulate your temperature, keeping you cool in the summer and cozy in the winter. And it's not just sheets. They have pajamas, loungewear, love the loungewear, bath towels, and much more. Unbelievably soft and unforgettably comfortable. The coziest way to make your home a sanctuary. Don't forget Cozy Earth's guarantee. All of their products can be returned or exchanged within 100 days and include an additional 10-year warranty against defects. Go to CozyEarth.com, enter code Megyn at checkout for up to 40% off your order right now. CozyEarth.com, promo code MEGYN, CozyEarth.com. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.